Hi, this is Dedee Pfeiffer, and you're listening to the Don't Go Out There podcast with these awesome guys.
In a world where zombies, ghosts, serial killers, and vampires all exist, it's Nico, Brian, Mike, and Dustin, and they are all that stand between you and the films that could end the world. Welcome to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review Podcast. Just want to thank all our fans and listeners. I really appreciate all support. You guys are awesome. Super excited for this upcoming interview. We are joined today by yet another legend of the business. She's been in horror cult classics such as Vamp and The Horror Show, known best for her role on Sybil, and can be found now on ABC's hit series Big Sky. Miss Dedee Pfeiffer, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you guys for having me.
Oh, the pleasure is all ours. We like to ask all of our guests, Miss Pfeiffer, you grew up in Midway City, California. You studied with some of the most renowned acting coaches in the business. Can you talk a little bit about what got you into acting? Your family was hardworking, blue collar, from what I understand. Was it Michelle who got the acting bug first? How did that come about?
Yeah, it was totally Shell. She was a crazy one. Everyone thought she was nuts. And and I became second nuts in line because we came from Orange County, literally like under the freeway, not the expensive, rich area of Orange County, but like more like the Garbage Grove, Santa Ana area. And blue collar worker, family came from North Dakota, and she just decided, she did a pageant, won Miss Orange County, and then she got into a commercial, and from there she got an agent. She kind of slipped right into it. And by the time I was 18, she had done a few things and was doing Scarface. So at that point, I had worked since I was like 2. Okay, it's a little exaggerating. But back then, child labor wasn't an issue. So I worked from
Right.
the moment I could walk because my dad didn't have any money and my mom never worked. So if I wanted something, I had to earn it. So by the time I was 18, I'd had every job possible known to mankind. So I was like, hey, my sister's acting. Let me try that thing. So I said, hey, Shell, I want to act. And she goes, oh, God, just stop right there. It's not as easy as you think. Get into an acting workshop and see if you like it. Well, then I went to one of the best ones at the time, Peggy Fury, and I was awful. I was terrible. I was stuttering. I couldn't memorize my lines. I didn't know what characters. I literally was like the worst. And I'm sure everyone else in the acting class was like, please don't pair me with that girl. She's a mess, right?
No,
So
please.
2 years, I just stumbled and fell all over myself until I finally started to get a little handle of it. Clearly, I was a hard head because I should have just given up way before then. But I was like, I'm not giving up until I figure this out. Well, I'm 58 and I still can't figure it out. Still trying to do it right.
Oh, please. So you landed your first role in John Landis's 1985's Into the Night. We had Jeff Goldblum, Stacey Pickering, and of course your sister Michelle. Can you talk a little bit about that experience?
It was awesome because you know what had happened was I had got another job before that, but then they took it away from me. Because Hollywood was a whole different playing field back then. You
Right.
had to be in the union to get a union interview for a union gig.
Oh,
But you couldn't get the union interview unless you were union. So it was this catch-22. So we were always lying about our resumes, making
Right.
it look like we were in the union and we weren't, right? So you were constantly trying to wiggle your way in there. So I got an interview and I got it. Right. And this was after 2 years of studying and stuttering and just being a mess. I scored one. My agents called. And of course, I ran to my family. I got my very first acting job. And Shell and my brother and my other sister, my mom and dad were so excited because no one was more surprised than us that you got an acting gig. And then my agent called me back and said, oh, this was in 84. And said, oh, you're SAG, right? And I said, no, remember, I'm not. This has always been the problem. And they went, oh, let me call you back. And then they called me back and said they gave it to the actor that they liked as well behind me because she was in the union.
Oh.
Shell was working on Into the Night with John Landis and said, oh, hell no. Went to work that night and told John Landis the story. And he said, oh, hell no. Tell her to show up on Hollywood Boulevard Friday night with her most hooker, trashy clothes. We'll make her a $10 hooker. Give her a couple of lines. Get her in the union and tell her I'll cut it out. But it'll help cut it out of the film. But I'll get at least into the union to get her jump started into this catch-22. Well, I not only did the role, but he liked it so well, he kept it in the movie.
Right.
And I couldn't afford the SAG card, so he gave me extra ADR work to pay for the SAG card. So it was a really kind of like a messed up thing that turned to be a beautiful thing, and that was my beginning. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
What a good dude.
Yeah,
Um,
John Landis, he's cool, man. He
so
makes good
I
movies.
mean, we're a horror podcast, so we have to ask about Vamp.
Yeah.
That yes, yes.
Yes.
So, and I was talking about how the movies kind of you definitely gained a cult following over the years, and like I said, I personally feel like Quentin Tarantino went with a lot of this kind of the same plot points when he did From Dusk Till Dawn 10 years later, actually. So, can you kind of tell us about your experience playing Amaretto?
Okay, well, first of all, my very first starring role was Vamp.
Mm-hmm.
So Vamp was my baby up until I had two babies, which are two human men in the other room right now. Like Vamp was my baby, and Amaretto was like I don't know, I still this day, I still love her. I love the idea of playing a woman or a girl who's so in love that there's buildings on fire, vampires running everywhere, and she's just like, you remember me? We played Spin the Bottle. I mean, how can you not love a character named Amaretto who's oblivious to anything around her other than love, right? So I read for it. I got it. Richard Wank, the writer, director, producer, said that he and Don Borchers were going back and forth on cast, and I was Richard's choice, but Don wanted somebody else. All I can say is thank God Richard got it, because that gave me my first starring role, and to this day, I just love that film. And you know that the making of Vamp is the real movie, because it was insane making that movie. Oh God.
Yeah, that was one of the questions I had, because from stories and interviews I've seen, it definitely sounds like it was an interesting experience. I mean, do you have anything that you can share with us? I mean,
Grace with her vibrator, and because she didn't.
Well, I haven't heard the vibrator story.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, she would always say, "Where's my vibrator? Where's my vibrator?" Like always. So like, that's really nice, Grace. We really need to stand on your mark, and we really need to get this done. And she was a lovely, by the way. I love her. A lot scary. I thought she was super scary when I met her because of all these things I'd seen and heard. And when she went to shake my hand, she had the most soft, sweet handshake. I was like, there's just a little teddy bear in there. But she was always talking about her vibrator, very eccentric, very out of the box, which I actually really appreciate and love. I was just too shy to do it out loud. So she kept yelling about her vibrator, and we were like, wow, okay. And again, this is the 80s. So one day she came on the set, damn it, when I wasn't working, and came running on and going, here's my vibrator. And it was this big black vibrator with the cord, remember 80s, with the cord hanging. This is all hearsay, I don't know. And she runs into the sound cart dude. So the sound cart dude, and the vibrator hanging from the cord all went tumbling over, crashing onto the ground.
Oh my gosh.
Of course, which once again is like, somebody get Grace off the sound cart, get the vibrator out of her hand, get her in there. This stuff was going on all the time. And yeah, that was just one of the many. You got to really check out the making of Vamp. The stories just go on and on and on.
Oh yeah, that's fantastic. We can have a whole podcast just for that. So
yeah, we really did. Like, people interview me on the making of Vamp more than actually anything else. Yeah.
Well, I mean, talking about beautiful souls. I mean, it sounds like playing Amaretto. How much of that performance is Dedee Pfeiffer? And how much is you playing a character? Because I mean, you seem like a very positive, uplifting, just spirit from talking to you now and interviews that I've seen with you.
Well, thank you so much. That's really sweet of you to say. At that time, I was really young. And I would say I was a lot like Amaretto for sure. Really young and in Hollywood. And my heart got beat up. I'm not going to lie. It got beat up pretty bad. But what doesn't kill you makes you tougher. So let's just say Mama's a little tough chick over here now. Because I was, like my dad always said, a hard head. So a lot of Dede was in Amaretto. And after having gotten sober 4 years ago, I was able to bring back that part that I had lost, that my addiction just kneecapped, because addiction just takes out all the good in the person. I mean, it just kills it, right? So right. I now feel like that part of me that was like Amaretto is back at 58, which is like a rebirth, dude. I mean, come on, right? And that's pretty cool. And I just feel like I want to spread that Amaretto love around, because not everyone gets a second chance. Some people go to the light too soon, and I'm one of the lucky ones who didn't. So right. I'm here to spread a little Amaretto love for sure. Yeah.
Well, the last thing I'll ask you about Vamp is, I mean, obviously, over the years, different movies become cult classics. When did you really realized that, hey, this Vamp movie is not going away, and it's a cult classic, and you started getting more and more questions about it? I mean, was there a time that kind of stood out more than others? That you knew, hey, Vamp's a cult classic now.
Um, that's a good question. Considering I'm so oblivious, this is where I'm very much like like me, Dedee Pfeiffer. I'm like, it's like, hey, did you know your sister's on this movie? I'm like, no, is she? I just talked to her last night. She didn't say that. I'm really like totally the last one to know anything on Big Sky. I'm the last one to know anything in my family. I'm the last one to know anything, just because I kind of live in my own little world of like paranormal stuff. And I don't know, I love Mother Earth stuff and animals and love and all that stuff. I don't sit around and watch movies. I don't watch other performances. I don't even watch my own performance. This podcast, I won't listen to this. I won't look at my other interview I did earlier today, because I don't do this for me. I do it for other people, right? So I had no idea that Vamp took off. I mean, I really had no idea until, God, I had I think it was probably when I came back to the screen three years ago on Big Sky, was when I literally recently that I went, oh my God, Vamp is really like its own special thing out there with other special things. And I get to be a part of that. So I'm going to have to say just recently, did I really understand the magnitude of how special Vamp is. I always knew it was, but I didn't realize other people saw what I saw. So yeah, once again, I'm like the last one. Last one to get the memo. It's just who I am. It's all good.
That's awesome. So shifting gears here to a little bit of a heavier subject, you kind of touched on it there when you were talking about Vamp and Amaretto recovery. Mm-hmm. So you're very passionate about helping others struggling with recovery from any sort of addictions. And it's actually, as we record this, National Recovery Month this month. Yes. Can you talk to our audience some about that? I think everyone either knows someone or are themselves struggling with mental health and addiction recovery in some shape or form.
Boy, Dustin, you're absolutely right. To say that it's only affects the few is wrong. It is. We have an epidemic of addiction and people's addictions that affect other people around them. It's not like an I disease. It's a we. It does affect the entire family. Anyone who knows and loves you is affected by your being in your disease. One of the things I want to say is that addiction is not a choice. And I do believe people forget that. And that's why I'm so out loud about it. I'm recovering out loud, because it's so important that we get rid of the social stigma. And I think the social stigma comes from the fact that we think it's actually a choice. It's not a choice, man. No one wakes up and goes, hey, I think I'll be an addict. That sounds like a lot of fun. Hell no. Nobody wakes up wanting this. I certainly didn't, right? Any more than someone wakes up and says, hey, I think I want cancer. That sounds like a good idea. They're diseases that need treatment and compassion. But the problem is when you have cancer, you generally don't act bad. You don't make an ass of yourself. You don't go out there and hurt people. No person active in their disease means to do that. They're just trying to figure out a way to probably deal with, number one, an undiagnosed, untreated addiction, not to mention trauma. They are two different things and have to be treated as such. Right? And so when we view it that way, we can maybe have a little more compassion for the person who's struggling. And I just want to say, man, I went to recovery in my 50s, going through menopause, not sexy, okay? But let me tell you, with a bunch of meth heads, heroin heads, and people with addictions from food, gambling, heroin, alcohol, you name it, and I was in there with them. 30 days intensive, no kids, no phones, no computer. I was literally with what I discovered were my peeps. I'd always felt like an outcast until I was in recovery. I met my peeps. I knew them without ever having met them, and they knew me. So if you're struggling out there, there's help when you're ready, but only when you're ready, by the way. So those who are waiting for that person to be ready, just tell them you love them. You can see that their energy is shifting and that they're struggling, and whenever they are ready, you're there to help them find help, right?
Absolutely. Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Well, very well put.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. So a follow up on that. I mean, so you took time off from acting, and I'm gonna ask you about that in a moment. But I feel like this is a good time to talk about you getting back into acting. Were there any thoughts about it possibly being difficult to go back into the industry with all those temptations?
Oh, dude, yeah. I left 10 years before to get my degrees, drinking the whole way through college. Never during class. I never drank while pregnant, while in front of the screen, nor at school. But that did not mean I was not an alcoholic. Oh my God, a high functioning alcoholic. We're very clever, by the way. And you met those high functioning alcoholics. So was it difficult? Yeah, because I got sober. I only had a year under my belt when I came back to the screen, and I had finished my last year at UCLA, my master's program of social work, while starting Big Sky during the pandemic, and I still didn't drink, or smoke cigarettes, and you'll be surprised how strong you are when you actually just put one foot in front of the other and have faith in yourself and faith in the process. And by the way, when they say trust the process, I used to be like, oh, F the process. The problem with trusting the process is you can't see the process. You can't feel it. You can't touch it. You're asked to trust, right? And faith works best in the dark. And that's really rough for me. I want to touch it, man. Right? So I had to trust others who had more recovery ahead of me, who said to me, take a big breath. You got this, just one day at a time. I'm like, hell, it's 1 minute at a time most days. They're like, okay, then do it 1 minute at a time. Just do it, right? So, God, there were so many reasons to pick up a drink or a cigarette if you really want to go there. But I kept asking myself, do you want to go back to being the identified problem like you were when you were in your disease? Or do you want to remain the identified possibility every day I don't use? And let me tell you, that helps your decision right there. That helps a lot. I like being the identified possibility versus the identified problem. Doesn't mean it's easy, but guess what? Life isn't easy. It's not easy for normies who don't drink or have an addiction. So of course we're going to have rough days. That's called life, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a great outlook to have there. So you kind of touched on it. Taking 10 years off from acting to earn your master's in social work from UCLA. Congratulations on that, by the way. That's awesome. Just going back to get your degree is huge, but you went all in, got your master's too. Can you tell us a little bit about that decision to just stop cold turkey from acting and go back to school?
Well, I always called it a pregnant pause. Like, I'm not going to walk away completely, but I had to envelop myself in raising 2 boys on my own and go to school. It was no easy thing. I had learning disabilities. Because remember, I graduated in 82, boys. You guys were probably not even born. 82, there was no cell phones, no computers. There was nothing. Look at me. There was no, this is nice grammar, Dede. You never know. You see, I'm a graduate the way I talk. Okay, listen, my degree was not in grammar or English. Okay, so no judging me. So I can diagnose you, but I can't talk. But the thing is that, when I went to college, I literally was like, I took a break because I thought at the time the industry had changed so rapidly. I didn't like the changes and how women were treated. And I was raising 2 boys and I just was confused. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I realized I was more loyal to an industry that was not loyal back as a woman artist. So I thought, I'm going to go help people. I had no idea what that looked like. Like I said, I graduated in 82, barely. So I walk up to Pierce College and go, hey, I want a degree. And they're like, okay, what do you want? I'm like, I don't know. You tell me. They're like, man, that's not the way it works. You need to tell us what degree you want. I said, I just want to help people. And they said, how about a psych degree? I said, hey, how about that? Let's start there. So that's how it started. And then we discovered immediately I had learning disabilities, which in school I was taught and told I was dumb and stupid. And it was pretty painful if you think about it. And in college, they went, no. Actually, you're really bright. I think you have learning disabilities. Once they were discovered and accommodated, I started getting A's left and right, and studying was so much more easy. Although I couldn't do it full time all the time because I had my boys, Taekwondo, going to school, getting them up and running. So I fit my degree in with being a single mom. So I didn't mean to take 10 years. It took me 10 years, and it took a year off to get sober because I wasn't going to make it if I didn't. There was just no way. Yeah.
That's incredible determination. Congrats
Amazing
again on
story.
that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so shifting gears again back to your acting career, Big Sky. I mean, that's a big hit. Can you talk to us about that big return to acting and how that came about and what it takes to really become Denise?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. Big Sky, noon night, Wednesday. Look at me. I'm shamelessly pitching. Noon night, Wednesday night, ABC, 10 p.m. Pacific time. See that? That will keep my butt employed, boys. Okay. Now that I did that, Hulu. Did I say Hulu? Catch us on Hulu. First 2 seasons. We just premiered last week. Plenty of time to catch up. New season, super exciting. Reba McEntire, Jensen. Oh my God, what you see Denise shamelessly flirt with Jensen because he's just so cute. Here's something that's super fun. Jensen and I worked together 2 other times. People don't know this. Yeah. Jensen, when he was a baby, an embryo, was on Sybil with me. We had a scene together, which is really funny. He blows off my character, and then I was on Supernatural, and he blows my head off. So now he's on Big Sky. So who knows what Denise is going to do to him? I got to get a hold of writers, right, and say, hey, Revenge Man, okay?
That's
Dede's
it.
got to get Jensen now. All joking aside, it's a great season. Like I said, I was finishing my last year of UCLA, doing my internship at the Department of Mental Health. Had not a clue how I was going to survive as a social worker on their peanut salary, because I hadn't thought that far in advance. Everything I had to sell to pay back all my loans. And there I was again with these 2 boys and all these rescued animals. And I thought, oh, wow, how am I going to do this? And I also wanted one day to bridge my old fan base and all the knowledge I had as an actor and producer in with my degree and my learned experience, and somehow mesh it all together and help people on a larger scale. And then out of nowhere, David Kelly, my brother-in-law, texted me, and I didn't even know he had my number, and said, hey, are you still acting? I have this role named Denise in Big Sky. It's perfect for you. I'm like, what? Yes. 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 And that's how it started. He had no idea. I say this all the time, but it's worth repeating. He threw me a lifeline. He had no idea. And Big Sky is now going to give me the opportunity, for instance, to do this awesome podcast with you guys and talk about all this fun stuff and hijack the interview and talk about addiction and mental health and other things that are also as relevant, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's kind of how that happened.
Well, you can hijack our podcast anytime.
Oh, yeah. Guys, when we get into the season, you're going to want me back. There's some major stuff happening this season. It's so fun. Yeah, because I'm like 8 scripts in. You guys are going to go for a bumpy ride when you watch our show this year.
Oh, absolutely. We'd love to have you back. But the addiction stuff was great. You know, you didn't hijack the show at all. That was very powerful stuff. And, you know, someone who listens may need to hear that. So you may impact someone. That's awesome to think about. Dede, is there anything else you'd like to plug or discuss? Big Sky is on ABC. It might date our show a little bit, but I believe the next episode airs tomorrow. What else is going on in your world? You want to shout out social media or anything else you got going on?
I do. I actually do a lot of fun stuff in social media. Dedee Pfeiffer Official on Instagram. And I have a lot of fun on my Instagram. I do Dede Random Thoughts. They are literally random. So they're just like, and they're often very positive, thoughtful, funny. I do these things called What's in Denise's Desk, or what the hell does Denise do all day when the girls are out solving crimes? And I have all these celebrities answering the questions, and it's so funny because everyone pretty much goes to the gutter. You know, oh, she's pole dancing. Oh, she's, got lingerie under sexy panties in her drawer. I mean, everyone seriously has a really good time answering these silly questions. It's just a way to have fun with the character in the show. And anything else I want to plug? I think that any way anyone can find ways to be part of the solution, not the problem, by finding love, compassion, and support for each other is always the right thing to do, because the world's kind of a noisy place right now. And I think we need each other. We really do. And I can't thank you enough for giving me this beautiful platform to kind of spread a little sunshine with y'all today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Oh, and Big Sky, Wednesday nights, 10 p.m. Pacific, ABC and Hulu.
And Hulu. Don't forget Hulu.
I do it all the time.
Thank you so much for calling on the show. We really appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you too, guys.
Definitely get you back on, too.
Yeah, wait till you see Denise and Jensen. Who knows what they're going to do with these 2 characters? He and I are both smart asses. So they're capturing a lot of that on screen. Because like I said, we work together, so we're having a really good time. So I don't know what's going to happen. I honestly am not lying. I don't have any clue. I only know when I get the script. Thank you, guys. You guys have a beautiful day.
You do the same.
You too.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Just want to remind everybody,